sky over Delhi was already darkening when two passenger jets, carrying 349 people between them, were sent toward the same invisible point in the air. One was climbing away from the runway, heavy with fuel and holiday season passengers heading back to the Gulf. The other was descending after hours in the air from Central Asia, cleared to land. They were talking to the same controller. They had been assigned different altitudes with 1,000 feet of separation. On paper, they should have missed each other easily. Instead, they met head-on in what is still called one of the worst mid-air collisions in history. To understand how that could happen, you need to understand how crowded skies don't constantly turn into wreckage. Above us, there are airways, invisible highways in the sky. Aircraft traveling east use certain altitudes, those going west use others. A busy route can have dozens of jets strung out along it, each separated vertically by 1,000 or 2,000 feet, managed by air traffic controllers watching radar and issuing altitude clearances in turns. Over northern India, one such international airway connected Kazakhstan to the Indian subcontinent. Another, known as G452, linked India and China to the Gulf states. These two routes crossed over the state of Haryana at a reporting point called Lurga, often written Lumba or Lukma, an imaginary intersection in the sky where aircraft check in and often change direction, just like a roundabout on a highway. On November 12, 1996, a Kazakhstan Airlines Aviation 76 freighter, Flight 1907, was inbound to Delhi from Shymkent. It carried 27 passengers and 10 crew, many of them traders heading to India. Roughly at the same time, a Saudi Arabian Airlines Boeing 747, Flight SV-763, had landed in Delhi from Jeddah, taking on new passengers, mostly Indian workers returning to jobs in Saudi Arabia, and was scheduled to depart back to Jeddah in the early evening with 312 people on board. No one on either aircraft had any reason to suspect that their routes would ever intersect in any meaningful way. Different origins, different destinations, different stories. All they shared was a few minutes of overlapping airspace. By 6:23 p.m. local time, Kazakhstan 1907 was approaching the Lurga waypoint at 25,000 feet and contacted Delhi Area Control to request descent along the Delhi Star arrival route. The controller on duty, V.K. Dutta, cleared them down to flight level 200 to 20,000 feet. The freighter left the high-level airway and began descending toward Delhi. At 6:32 p.m., Saudi 763 lifted off from Delhi's runway, its three-man cockpit crew well-rested after 70 hours off duty. After departure, ATC cleared the 747 to climb initially to 10,000 feet, then toward the same Delhi Star route that the inbound Kazakhstan aircraft was already following in the opposite direction. Both flights were now effectively on the same track, nose to nose, with Delhi Control responsible for keeping them apart vertically. At 6:34 p.m., Dutta instructed the Kazakh flight to continue descending to 15,000 feet as it neared from the northwest. 2 minutes later, at 6:36, he cleared Saudi 763 from 10,000 to 14,000 feet as it climbed out to the northwest. In his plan, the two jets would pass each other with 1,000 feet of vertical separation. Kazakhstan level at 15,000, Saudi level at 14,000, closing at a combined speed of over 900 kilometers per hour as they crossed near Lurga. At 6:38 p.m., the Saudi crew reported they had reached 14,000 feet and requested further climb. Dutta held them there, telling them to maintain 140 until opposite traffic had passed overhead. What he didn't know, and what the Kazakhstan crew didn't fully understand, was that Flight 1907 was not holding at 15,000 feet. The Kazakh cockpit had 5 people in it: captain, first officer, flight engineer, navigator, and a radio operator. None of the core flight crew spoke English well enough for international radio work. The radio operator's job was to listen to ATC in English, translate into Russian for the pilots, then translate their responses back into English on the air. It introduced fatal delay and confusion. When the Aviation reported level 150 at 6:39 p.m., flight data later showed it was actually passing through about 16,300 feet and still descending. Whether the radio operator misstated the level or the crew misunderstood where they were supposed to stop, the effect was the same. Instead of leveling at 15,000 feet, the Kazakh jet continued down toward 14,000. At that moment, Dutta gave them a crucial piece of information. In English, he said, "Traffic 12 o'clock, reciprocal, Saudi Boeing 747, 10 miles, likely to cross in another 5 miles. Report if in sight." Translated into plain terms, there is opposite traffic directly ahead at 14,000 feet, about 10 nautical miles away, expected to pass in front of you in the next few miles. Let me know if you can see it. The Kazakh radio operator did not fully grasp the call on first hearing and asked for clarification. Dutta tried again, simplifying. "Traffic is at 8 miles, level 140. The response came back from Kazakhstan 1907. They had received the update and were looking. Half a minute later, a U.S. Air Force cargo aircraft nearby radioed Delhi to report a big explosion in the sky. When Dutta tried to contact both flights, there was only silence. In clear air at night over Haryana, the left wing of the descending Aviation 76 sliced through the left wing of the climbing Saudi 747. Both wings shattered. The Boeing went into a violent, twisting fall, fuel streaming from its ruptured wing, breaking apart in midair before impacting near the village of Dani, scattering wreckage over fields. The Kazakh jet, missing half a wing and part of its tail, tumbled in a flat spin and crashed near the village of Charkhi Dadri. All 349 people on both aircraft were killed. Around the world, the same question echoed. If ATC had assigned a 1,000-foot gap, how had they collided? Investigators found a chain of failures. The Kazakh crew had descended below their cleared altitude and never truly leveled at 15,000 feet. The language barrier and reliance on a radio operator meant critical traffic information was delayed or diluted. By the time the warning about opposite traffic straight ahead was understood and passed on, there was almost no time left to react. Delhi ATC shared blame too. On reciprocal tracks, international rules recommended 2,000 feet of vertical separation at the time, not 1,000. The radar installation showed distance and bearing but did not display altitude, leaving controllers dependent on pilots' reports alone. Out of the wreckage came change. After Charkhi Dadri, the use of TCAS, traffic collision avoidance systems that warn crews and issue climb/descend orders independently of ATC, became mandatory on large commercial jets worldwide. ICAO also tightened English language proficiency standards for pilots and controllers, and major airports upgraded radar to show both position and flight level. The night two jets met over Haryana remains one of aviation's darkest moments, a reminder that in a sky big enough for everyone, a few misunderstood words and a few hundred feet can still be the difference between safe separation and catastrophe.